Sorry, Chad. First up, we have approval of our May 9th meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Hillary, and we'll vote. So, Matt,
Yes.
Hillary,
Yes.
Tom?
I'm going to abstain because I wasn't here.
I'm going to abstain because I was not here, and April.
Yes.
All set, Ann? Thank you. Okay. Number 2, disclosure of conflict of interest. Any planning board members have a conflict on a item that we're going to take tonight?
Item number 10 on the agenda, KRP is requesting informal pre-application review. That's a project that my family's working on, so I will recuse myself.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay.
I will also recuse myself from item 10 because I've had outside conversations with the developer and I don't want to have a perceived conflict, so just to be transparent there. Anybody else have a conflict that they wish to disclose? Okay, hearing none, we'll get started. Item number 3, LA Properties is requesting a final plan review for a 3-lot subdivision on Webb Road, east of Ames Drive. Yeah, come on up. Nope, to that microphone right there.
My name is Parrish Manson. I work for K&K Land Surveyors, who's here on behalf of LA Properties. The subdivision proposed is for 2 lots on the Webb Road, which will be number 10 Webb Road and number 12 Webb Road. The houses are already built on the property. The permits were granted before anyone realized this was a subdivision. That no one realized it was a subdivision until the title attorney for number 10 Webb Road announced that it was a subdivision. That's why we're here. We're requesting final approval tonight. The buildings are up. The lot 10 is the subject of a purchase and sale agreement. The woman that's buying it has been living in a hotel for the last month since the city won't give an occupancy permit. Both properties are on city sewer. Both properties have drilled wells. The wells have been tested and passed. The building permits included the driveway entrances. The Ann Beveridge had a question about curb cuts. Horatio Zalivos, I don't know how you say his name, has advised both me and the city that curb cuts are not necessary. Are there any questions?
Any questions from the board?
I have a question. We have an email about the well test, the water testing.
Yes.
That's the filtration is remediated. Any issues with contamination?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So the documents I sent, there was the original test for number 10, parcel lot number 2, that showed there was an arsenic problem. There was a bill from the $1,300 bill from the people that remediated that with a in-use filter. I don't understand. And then the final test afterwards showing that the arsenic problem had been cured. On number 12, I did not have the initial test. That one failed. The failure was more than just the arsenic. That cost $5,000 to remediate. The company called it I can't remember, something package. I tried to find out what it was, I couldn't. Then there's the second test that showed that well had passed after whatever that installation was. Both wells had problems. Both were remediated.
The second well that had to be drilled, the $5,000 package, that had to be drilled deeper to
No.
tap different aquifer? No.
I don't know what,
Okay.
something was installed.
Okay.
I don't know if it, when I called the company to find out, there was nobody available that could tell me. I called right after lunch. I think it was installed at the well, but I'm not sure, maybe in the house. There were other issues besides just arsenic on that well. I don't know what they were. The test result, the second test shows that it passed.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? All right, and I can't find the findings and facts. Do you have a hard copy? Thank you. Have you had a chance to look over the findings and facts form?
No,
He might need one as well, and,
Here, you can read mine.
okay.
and you can read that with Parrish.
Okay, so I will read each criteria and you tell me if it's true or false.
yes,
So number one, the development will not result in undue water or air pollution on or off site.
oh,
So you say true or
True.
false? Yep. Number two, sufficient water is available for the reasonable foreseeable needs.
apparently, yes, true.
Okay. Yeah, we do have a letter from the fire chief as well, or assistant fire chief. Number three, will not cause unreasonable soil erosion or reduction in the capacity of the land to hold water.
True,
Number four, the development will not cause unreasonable highway or public road congestion.
true, they're residents,
Yeah, just two
there will be
residences.
minimal traffic.
Number three, the development will provide for adequate solid waste disposal.
True, public sewer.
Number six, the development will not cause an unreasonable burden on the ability of the municipality to dispose of sewage.
The building permits were granted, I assumed that it.
Yeah. It's connected to the sewage, right?
And it is connected to the
Yep.
sewer.
Number seven, the development will not have undue adverse effects on the scenic or natural beauty of the area, aesthetics, historic sites, or rare or irreplaceable natural areas, or any public rights for physical or visual access to the shoreline.
True,
Number eight, the development is in conformance with zoning.
it's an RB zone and it meets all the requirements.
Perfect. Number nine, the developer has adequate financial and technical capacity to meet the above stated standards.
True, he's already built them.
The conditions that are attached are having to do with the fire hydrant, 1,500 feet from the subdivision. Did we?
Yes, well within that.
Okay.
Like 1,000 feet or less.
Is it on Webb Road?
Yeah.
It has to be, yeah.
Yep, right at the intersection.
Okay. With that, I'll entertain a motion to accept the findings and facts as presented.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay? And a second by Matt, I see?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll do a roll call. So Matt,
Yes.
Hillary,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
I'm a yes. April?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have plans that we need to sign and?
It's not there. I have it here, the one you need to sign.
Okay, if you want to leave those ones
Is it okay with you if they sign at the end of
at the end?
say something?
Yes.
I bought the property on the red road. And I'd like to know what's going to happen between now, because I know it's all built and you guys are going to approve it. But
You have to go up to the microphone, I'm sorry. No, it's not a real wall.
Since it wasn't done correctly in the first place, what recourse do I have? I came home from golf, and all the buffer zone was gone that was supposed to be there. And I think you're aware of that because I've called you.
It's a buffer zone on the mobile home.
That's correct. That's correct. And I did speak to an engineer, I think it was you, I'm not sure, and you said you knew nothing about the buffer zone.
Right.
Right. And,
On this property, Ann?
yes,
No, the buffer is to be on
Yeah.
the mobile home park, which is right behind this lot.
Oh, okay. I see.
it is behind the lot.
Right. So it's
That was
not on
covering-
this property.
No, but that was covering the property, and this property that is being sold says in the plans or in the online sales or whatever, it says that it's a trailer. I know it's not, but it says trailer. That's how they advertised it.
It's a prefabricated home, right?
I
So-
understand that,
yeah.
but that's not what it says in online
Well,
selling the house. So if they're gonna call it that,
Randy, do you know if that's just a problem with the real estate agent or, I haven't seen the listing. I actually looked for the listing yesterday. I couldn't find it. I'm assuming it's down because it can't be sold yet.
I don't know, I'm not aware of what's going on there.
I just know when I came home, it was completely down, everything. All of nature was gone. And they built, and I understand they built, and there's not much that I can do about it, or maybe that you can do about it, because it's done. But somebody should be, his hand slapped or something. I mean, he just, something like this doesn't just disappear,
So,
because it was done wrong.
and is the problem that the building permits were issued before
Correct.
it was a subdivision
The
or?
requirement for a buffer is on the mobile home park
Right.
property, and Mr. Breton no longer owns the mobile home park. So I don't believe he would have cut a buffer on the neighbor's property.
He may have cut trees on his own property that he had the right to cut, they weren't in the buffer zone.
Right, but the problem that she's bringing up is that the buildings were built before it came to the planning board for the subdivision.
Correct.
And
Correct.
so I'm asking, how did that miscommunication happen, so that we can better explain?
Mr. Manson is saying that it was a title insurance attorney who let the property owner, Mr. Breton, know that this was a subdivision, that the third lot there, this lot right here, it's actually only two that are being sold. This has already been sold.
Oh, okay.
All right, so the buffer is supposed to be on this property, a separate property from here.
So the
I don't
buffer
know.
issue is gonna come up later.
The buffer
Item
issue
number 5.
has to do with the mobile home park. It has nothing to do with this.
Okay.
So the buffer is owned by C37
Yeah.
Capital.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So do you see what she's saying?
I do, but my question is, he went ahead with the property, building the homes,
Right,
without the proper,
so he was
Papers.
issued a building permit, though. So that's where I'm asking for clarification. So
the
code enforcement officer
officers,
issued a
They
building.
didn't know that this was a subdivision.
Yeah.
They didn't know that there was another lot that had been sold earlier.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
So,
So
real-
Mr.
like-
Breton presumably didn't
He
cut
didn't,
the
no.
buffer on the
Yeah.
mobile home park. He cut trees on his own property.
right. I think
Presumably.
her concern, Ann, is that it was built without coming to the planning board, but the reason being is that he didn't know that he needed to come to the planning board.
Correct.
He didn't realize it was a subdivision. No one told him.
Right.
And
And
with all the property he's done in the area, why wouldn't he know that?
what triggers it being the subdivision, Ann? Because of the piece that was sold off to the trailer park for the road?
Well, it's not, it's this piece right here.
Right, yeah,
It's abutting Ames Road.
yeah. If it weren't for that.
But had he come for subdivision review earlier before he received the building permits, there
Right.
would still be no way for the planning board to require a buffer for the mobile home park on that property. The buffer for the mobile home park has to be on the mobile home park property.
It was still his property in the first place. I mean, he sold it,
Right, but
but he still owned,
he
mean-
doesn't own it anymore.
correct. Well, he's selling it.
Well, it's been sold. Somebody else owns it and is working on
Oh,
developing
the
it.
trailer park,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
And so presumably the new owners have possibly cut down. I don't know what the timeline is but
I'm not sure either. I just
Yeah.
know that my husband fought for it years ago, and all of a sudden it's down. So, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, it sounds like there's going to be further discussion
about the
that.
mobile home.
Right.
No, it's a
Portion.
different mobile home
No.
park
Oh,
that you're
okay.
discussing tonight.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So I guess,
But the owner may be here via Zoom. You could ask.
well, I
you could
guess the
ask the
recourse
owner.
then would be if they violated the original plans from the original mobile home, then you can contact code enforcement. And
Yeah,
code
yeah.
enforcement, so I guess I misunderstood, so I'm sorry.
we don't know
So
how long that buffer has been missing from the mobile home park.
if that buffer no longer is there and is not being
not.
maintained as it was supposed to be originally maintained the first time it was built, then you contact code enforcement and they need to go and inspect it and have them replant or
Yes.
put up a buffer up to your standards.
Mr. Sue, is that how you pronounce it?
So what
Will
about?
be here via Zoom, so you could, when that next mobile home project, when the mobile home expansion is, which one is it on the agenda? Let's see.
Yeah, it's 5.
Number 5 on the agenda, the owner will be attending via Zoom, and so I don't think it would be out of order for her to ask
No,
about
I don't
that.
think
If it's okay
so
with
at
the
all.
chair.
But to answer your question, the
Right.
recourse, because that's one that had already been decided, a buffer that's already been decided
Right.
in the past, is to go to the code enforcement.
Okay,
And they need to require them to fix the buffer.
okay. Now
And
what
in a
about-
way that's suitable for you,
Right,
that was originally agreed upon. And if they don't, then they are issued fines for not following it, so.
now, any fines going to be issued because he didn't build it correctly? I mean,
I can't answer that because that is way above my pay grade.
so
sorry,
if you're gonna
I'm
approve
sorry.
it tonight,
Huh?
if you're gonna approve that tonight, the-
Well,
the-
I can't issue the building permit, so that would be from code enforcement, right? Like, we don't have the ability to issue people building permits or anything. We approve a subdivision and making sure that it's in line with our ordinances, which this one is.
It is. I thought he didn't follow. when
No,
he-
we're talking about different properties, right? So the two properties that we're talking about here, if you look behind you, are those 2 lots. Okay?
Right, right.
The
The ones that
property
have
that the
already
buffer
built.
is supposed to be on is the other lot. Okay? Right there.
The buffer's supposed
And so that's a different property owner and it's a different property.
Supposed to be right here.
on this side.
No, this line here is the property line.
Well, that's the house that's built, and
Right.
it built right, they took that down to build it. They took that buffer zone down, the night I met you, last, whatever, I came home and it was all down, and you said you knew nothing about the buffer zone.
Right.
And that was the end of it. I called her and she looked it up, she says, yes, there are some minutes here, but they're not, whatever, final, or they weren't documented, or.
There's no documentation that the previous owner was required to put a buffer on a property that wasn't part of the mobile home park. He was required to put a buffer on the mobile home park, but not on this
Right.
property that we're discussing.
But at the time, the buffer zone was in front of the trailer parks. He just built between them. I don't know, I just feel that the guy built improperly, and that he should be fined or something, you know, not, he made a mistake and he built it, and he's got them sold, and, I just feel that he should be penalized somehow.
Okay, yes.
I'm Jeff Pellerin from 2 Dusty Lane. I think what Jean is also forgetting to mention is that back when Ron, her husband, her late husband, had told me years ago that that was considered the urban line. And I don't know what urban line means, but they fought for this because of the park. And there was never supposed to be any houses built or developed within the urban line. So I don't know what that means, because I wasn't involved in it back in the time, but do you remember that? Okay, so that's what you were, I felt you were missing. So, and now, lo and behold, there's 2, 4, or 5 houses there now, which was not supposed to ever have been built there. And that's what your husband, Ron, and Brian, and the whole neighborhood fought for. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you have any idea what year this is you're talking about, so
Ni-
I can
I
check?
believe it's 1989.
So at the time the mobile home park was approved, is that?
That's
Wait.
that's the only this property was shown, the trailer park was developed by Mr. Green. Okay? This property that we're dealing with tonight was shown as other land of Mr. Green, was not part of the trailer park. This is 1989. The titles split not long after that. The problem was when LA Properties purchased this parcel and the trailer park, it did it under, both titles were transferred to LA Properties. In the law that creates a merger, those 2 lots were merged back together. The last time they'd been together was just after 1989. They didn't realize at the time that that meant that whatever they did with the properties, everything was involved. When LA Properties conveyed the west end of this lot, which is shown as C37 Parcel 4 on the plan, butting Webb Road, and the trailer park, they created a lot out of the merged parcel. When Mr. Breton proposed to split them, you're creating lots 2 and 3. You're creating a subdivision. His lawyer didn't realize it. He didn't realize it. They never should have merged the titles in the first place. They did. When I was asked to write the deed descriptions some months ago, I never stopped to think about it. I should have realized it. No, when he went to the code enforcement officers for the building permits, they didn't realize it. It was finally discovered by the title lawyer. He's right. This is a subdivision. Now, as to the question of the urban line, you may be talking about the zoning. The RB zone stops 200 feet from Webb Road, and then the trailer park is in the RU zone. Is in the rural zone.
Yeah, RR.
Okay. So there's nothing that I know of that barred anyone from building on the strip in the RB zone, this strip, okay? That's all I know at this point.
So maybe what the neighbors were told was that the mobile home park. Maybe what the neighbors were told was that the mobile home park couldn't be expanded into that residential
It
use.
certainly
Yes.
couldn't. And mobile homes aren't allowed in RB zone, are they?
Well, they are now,
They are now? All right.
double wides,
Okay, fine.
only double.
No. That was the reason they stopped. They started the trailer park where they did was they were in the rural zone. Any other questions?
I don't think so. Okay. Are you up now, Randy? For LA Properties?
Yes.
Field of Dreams?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. All right, my name is Randy Butler. I'm with Dirigo Engineering, here to present the Field of Dreams preliminary plans. Phase 1, which was approved a year or more ago, or about, I guess it was last summer, consisted of 5 lots along along 8 Rod Road. We're currently working on Phase 2, which is an additional 10 lots plus 1 common lot. Homes will be modular homes with garages built by the developer and then sold after construction. The lots will have private wells, private septic systems. Lot sizes are required to be 20,000 square foot minimum with 150 feet frontage on the road. The intent is to build the road to city standards with the intent to turn those over to the city if the city will accept them. For this phase, the reason that we phased the project is we wanted to be able to get a start on this before we ended up having to go to DEP. Once you get over 1 acre of impervious area, you have to go through DEP for some permitting. So that first 5 lots did not exceed that. So that's why we stopped at 5, so we could get some start on this last fall and over the winter. But now with this phase, it will kick it over that 1 acre threshold. So we'll be required to have a stormwater management permit. There'll be stormwater treatment for that and so forth. If you were to look at, so this first plan that you have up here is kind of the overall subdivision. Remember, this is at the site of the solar farm. The solar array is kind of toward the east of the site there, the east and the southerly portion of the site. It's about a 40-acre field. About half of it is taken up with solar farm, which is very near finished construction. If not already, it's pretty close. So the area to the left where you see kind of the yellow highlighted road, that's proposed for this this phase here. Let me advance this to the next phase to get a little bit more, a little larger screen. Okay, so that's a little bit more of a blow up of the subdivision itself, where yellow is the proposed roads. We'll have 3 under-drain soil filters on the site to treat stormwater, and we'll also have 3 metal buffers to treat stormwater. Fire protection was required on phase 1 to be by a cistern. So we'll have a cistern, I believe is a 30,000 gallon cistern, if I could recall, that is yet to be installed, but that will be installed before long. There is 1 home already constructed that's currently under contract. I can give you, if you want, just an idea of what the home will looks like. That's the first home that's constructed on lot 5, I believe. Whoops. I guess that's not, for some reason, that's not showing up on the screen. So that's a modular home with a garage. And that'll be pretty common. It might vary somewhat throughout the development, but full basement under the home and a 2-bay garage is kind of the typical construction. And with that, I'll welcome any questions.
Okay. Tom?
I have a question. With the house that was just built, I see there was a well off to the front right of the house.
Yes, correct.
Have you done any water testing or any arsenic issues like the other?
I've asked about that. I haven't got
Okay.
results on that, so that will be, we're in preliminary stage right now, but we intend to have that available for the next time we come.
Okay. When do you think that might be?
It might be a couple of months. We've got to submit to DEP, so typically what we want to do, I want to try to submit to DEP within a couple of weeks. We try to wait till they have some chance to review it a little bit for a month or so it may be a couple of months before we're back here. And we should have some data by that time.
Does DEP do the testing, or is it Northeast Labs like the other?
Yeah, DEP would not do any testing.
Okay.
It'd be an independent lab,
Okay.
whether it's Northeast Labs or others. Yeah.
Okay.
Have you drilled any other wells or anything, Randy?
To my knowledge, this is the only one that's been drilled so
Okay.
far.
How many square feet is that house, do you know? Just curious.
I do not know. It's 28 wide, I think 56 long.
Yep. On it's a regular foundation, I believe, right?
Correct, yes.
Any other questions? So my only hesitation, Randy, is to give you final plan review before you've done phase 1. Like, I'd like to see, phase 1 complete, make sure, we're not having any issues, we don't have any problems with buffers or neighbors or noise or any of that before we start issuing final plans for other phases.
Okay.
Just so things don't get lost in translation or.
Okay. Does it need to be 100% complete or just a
I don't
very
think it
high
needs
level
to
of?
be 100% complete, but I mean,
On-
it's barely started, right?
Right,
So,
right.
so what would be the timeline to?
Yeah, it might be potentially this fall.
It would-
The target, I guess, is if we can get permitting with DEP, maybe to start building the road this fall. This one, we don't
Yeah.
have as much issue with buffers because we have no buffers on this one, so that issue has gone away. But yeah, we can talk. We'll be back before then
Okay.
for some other projects.
And then, are there any concerns with the solar array and that road or anything like that? You're using that road, I assume.
Well,
right,
just
to-
tentatively, it will have to be added to. It's I don't know. It's probably 16 feet wide, 18, maybe it's 20 feet wide, but it's not necessarily built right now to city standards, so it will have to be widened.
The solar farm road.
Correct,
yeah.
correct, right. So that will have to be widened and improved to meet the subdivision ordinance rules. The road that's required for the solar farm is not as robust as what you'll need for the subdivision road.
And then, are you putting in hydrants on this site, or I can't? remember?
No, we're too far away from the water system.
So,
We're a few thousand feet, so we're doing the fire
Underground?
system. Yeah, the fire cistern, which is
Okay.
basically a tank, underground tank.
Yeah.
That's correct. Yep.
Where's the fire cistern going on this plan? I can't find it.
You're gonna force me to go through this mess again, aren't you? It's just behind. If you start in on that access road,
Yep.
it'll be on the right-hand side, kind of between.
Where it was
the-
originally proposed, basically?
Yeah, exactly.
okay.
Yeah, we may have moved it a little
Okay, I
bit
see it
just to
now.
make sure we're
Okay.
dodging lines, but yes. You go in on the road and it's like just past the first or second lot on the right-hand side as you're driving in.
Yeah, so we have, right now, you're approved to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right?
Correct.
And
And in
then-
order to do that, we will have to build, the middle lots will come off this access road. So we'll have to construct that portion of the road in order to build those lots, because we don't want all of the lots accessing directly off the 8-rod road.
Yeah.
When you have to construct the road, are you just talking about paving it with hot top, or are we talking about actually rebuilding the road bed to handle more traffic and?
No, I think the road bed as it is, we'll probably have to do some test pits to confirm that. Typically, the city engineer would require something for testing. I wasn't there to confirm what they did initially, so we'll probably have to do a few test pits to see what depth of gravel that they've got. Hopefully, they've gone down deep enough. Hopefully, they've just got to build up higher. I'm not sure what they've got there right now, so we'll have to investigate that.
When they built the road, did they just pour rocky loam or gravel on top of the existing?
They would have,
So-
they stripped the loam
Yeah,
off,
okay.
and then they put down probably like a 4 to 6 inch gravel. That'd be the stone size. I would imagine at least probably a foot to 18 inches depth. Again, I don't know for sure because I haven't dug into it, but we will do that to confirm and make sure that the final product meets city requirements.
And the city, you'll invite the city engineer to observe.
If that's what's required, yes. If he wants to be, yes. Yep.
And then, like, looking at the end of Garden Lane there, it just sort of stops. Is there a reason why it's not like a cul-de-sac, like?
Let me just get the map so I can refer to it here. Yeah, that's, well, there's a T turnaround at the
Right.
start of lot 15. That's what that T turnaround is there. So both roads will have a T turnaround.
Yeah, I guess my concern would be more of it connecting into the parks. You know,
No,
I don't
oh,
wanna-
no, there's no connection to the parks, no.
Not yet.
No, they can't be. It just won't work. There's a lot of wetlands. Initially, a few years ago, when we were first looking at the expansions, when Mr. Breton owned all of it, we did consider tying them together. But there's a large area of wetland. If you can look at kind of top center on that sheet, PB. Let me get the map back up here. We'll look at this plant here. Oops, sorry, there's share screen here. So on the map, I'm on the first sheet now. If you look at top center, you'll see kind of a leader there, a note, and you'll see an under-drain soil filter, that
Yeah.
kind of that light blue. So that property line right there, directly to the north, that's an abutting landowner, so they can't go through there. Initially, we did consider back a couple of years ago when we thought about a mobile home park tying in and maybe developing it. But there's wetlands on that upper east area that it's just doesn't make sense to go through there. Plus, you got the solar array that's in the way here as well. So there's just not physically, not financially, not environmentally reasonable to go through there. Plus, it's two different owners as well at this point.
And then also right there on that, like, kind of edge along, like, 1, 13, 14, and 15, is that an existing buffer there, the green squigglies?
There's a tree line there.
Yeah.
It's varying widths. It's something like maybe 40, 50 feet wide, and then it kind of narrows down. There's more of just a tree line there. By the time you get to lots 14, there's not much there, maybe 10, 15 feet wide. Little
Are we
strip of trees.
keeping that existing tree line?
I'm not sure. Let me look. Let me look at the next plan. It would show up more on the SW2 as to whether or not we need to get into that. Typically, it wouldn't be required
It's
because
not
you're
required.
residential
It's
against
more of a-
residential.
Yeah, it's more of a curiosity,
Yeah, no,
aesthetics.
at lots, between lots 1 and 13, I don't think we might need to get into it a little bit, but not much.
Okay.
And that's where it's widest, and that's where there's a home there, adjacent to kind of between lots 1 and 13. There is an existing home there. When you get back to lots 14 and 15, there's a field, a hay field, or it might even be a grown-up hay field there, if I recall, by lots 14 and 15.
And are you just leaving this to, like, the people that buy these homes to do landscaping or anything like that? I mean, just like aesthetic, please,
Yeah,
for
I mean, it's-
aesthetic reasons.
Right,
It does look
right.
nice to
There's no intent for
break things
the
up a little bit.
developer won't be planting anything. If the homeowners
Okay.
do it, that's up to them. They own the property, they can do what they want to. Just like any other homeowner, they'll, whatever's within ordinances.
Any questions from members of the public? Okay, anybody online? All right. Thanks, Randy. Are you for capital?
I am.
C37 too?
I
Okay.
am.
C37 Capital LLC is requesting preliminary plan review for Phase 2 of the expansion of Countryside.
Okay. Randy Butler, Yorgo Engineering. Here for Countryside Mobile Home Park, Phase 2. Just to give a little bit of background, there are 3 mobile home parks along this stretch of West River Road, formerly owned by LA Properties, but over the last, I believe it's been a year and a half, if I recall, has sold them to C37 Capital Waterville LLC. Phase 1 is currently under construction. That's a 60-unit mobile home park expansion, and that is between Countryside Mobile Home Park and the original Countryside Mobile Home Park and Village Green. The current proposal that we have before you is Phase 2 of this expansion, another 70 lots. This will be accessed via Countryside Phase 1 as well as Punky Lane. Let me back up one screen to show you the road network. So if you look at the upper right, you'll see Village Green. That's the area that was under concern earlier as far as the buffer concerns. The north part, which shows up off screen, is a buffer. In fact, if you look at it, I hadn't noticed before, but if you look carefully at the very upper right-hand corner, you'll see a little bit of cross-hatching there. I believe that would represent that buffer that is supposed to be going all the way across there, just cropped off at the edge of my screen, coincidentally. So the roads that are in black are either already constructed or under construction. So I'll try to talk loud so they can hear me on screen. This area here is Countryside Phase 1. This area down here is Punky Meadows Mobile Home Park. This area through here is the Countryside Mobile Home Park that's been there since the early 1970s. So the areas in red that are going out to the back, that would be the Phase 2 development that we're looking at. Again, all 3 mobile home parks in this area are under one ownership. In a minute, I'll show you a few photos. I know there's been some concern about the aesthetics and how the homes look and that sort of thing. I'll wait a few minutes to get into some photos. Let's look over the plans first, and then we'll get into a few photos to discuss a few items. So give me a moment. So this plan is essentially the Phase 2 portion of the project. This has the grading plan and so forth. When we did Countryside Phase 1, we had to do a site location of development permit through the main DEP. And therefore, anything that follows that also has to do that. So we'll have to do an amendment, a major amendment to that permit. And they require about anything you can think of for information they require in that. There's about 25 different standards that they look at. The primary ones that they look at are stormwater and groundwater, sewage, and other things that they all take into consideration, water supply, all of these things they account for. So this plan here is essentially it's probably 80 to 90% complete as far as showing the proposed grading for stormwater management. We'll have a number of underdrain soil filters, and in a few minutes I'll show you a photo of what an underdrain soil filter looks like. I believe we have current design is about 16 of these underdrain soil filters, that will catch runoff, detain it, slow it down, treat it, and then let it continue on into the streams to go down to the Kennebec River. There are 3 stream crossings that we'll be doing as part of this. They'll be primarily handled with large culverts, like on the order of 6, 7, 8 foot diameter culverts. We haven't got them sized exactly yet, but they'll be somewhere in that magnitude that we'll be doing these. I'm going to show you the next screen is some areas that we've got to do some work kind of down in the Punky Meadows area. So I'm going to show you that and talk about a little bit about the buffers and some of those things, as I'm sure some of the attendees have some concerns about. All right, so this is, if you're looking at your plans, this is sheet C3. And so it's a little bit of a blow up toward the southeast corner of the plan, of the larger plan, kind of highlighting some things that we're going to be doing at Punky Meadows. One of the concerns, and rightly so, that's been expressed is inadequate buffer along the Hart's property. When this property was first developed, so 1993 is when we got the original permit for Punky Meadows. I think construction might have started around 1995, thereabouts. And essentially there was I believe it was a 70-foot buffer that was to be maintained north of Hart Ridge Drive to help shield the Hart families. There's 2 residences there off on the left-hand side of your sheet, the Hart families. And so the intent was to give them something for a visual buffer to screen that. There is still a wooded buffer there, but it is predominantly hardwood. So this time of year, it's not too bad. There's pretty good foliage there. You can still see through pieces here and there, but the desire is to have something a little more robust, especially during the winter months when the leaves are off and so forth. There's not going to be total screening of it, but the more it's broken up, the better. So I actually went out there. The owner now has made a good faith effort to take some steps in the positive direction. In fact, they reached out to me earlier this week and said the fence is up. And I went out and looked today, and I saw the fence is not up, not where it's supposed to be. So they did put a fence up, but there's some miscommunication somewhere, and the fence went up in the wrong area. But they're making a good faith effort at it. I met with a property manager there today. I met with Colette Hart, who is the owner of the left house on the plan there, and we were on site for probably an hour and a half, just looking over some things, tried to come up with some good resolutions. I think it's going to be a combination of sections of fence and then also some trees to be planted to try to get things the way they should be. Before I flip over to the photos, I also want to point out on the right-hand side of the site, you'll see some notations in blue, and you'll see a couple of reddish pink buildings there. There's an existing mail house. It's probably something like a 10 by 12 building. And because we expect a good share of the traffic to be coming through Punky Lane, we'll have to expand that building, probably double the size, give or take. And then we'll also have to do, KWD no longer wants to have individual services, meters for each of the homes. It's a challenge for them to manage those, to maintain them, all that goes along with getting into individual homes. So what they have required is that eventually that all of the water that comes into the park is to be directed through a meter building. So they've got to build a small building. It'll be something on the order of 12 by 16, give or take, something on that size, not a large, maybe a little, shed-sized building to house a meter. So we'll have to have that building there. So one thing we've got to do is confirm, and maybe Ann, I'm not sure if Ann knows this, there are setback requirements from property lines. So we've got to confirm that that's acceptable. Unfortunately, we're limited on where we can put this, so this may be something that we've got to look into, determine whether or not it meets codes as is, or if it's something that we got to seek a waiver for. And just for clarity, it's along that property line. That's where the fence has been installed errantly. Not sure yet if they'll just leave that there or what. That's where the owners thought that that's where the issue was. Unfortunately, the issue was not at that location, but they've got a 6-foot tall stockade fence along that spot at this point. So let me go over to the photos. Give me a moment to switch over to that. So this is, the first few photos are just to show you what the outer end of Punky Meadows looks like if you haven't been out there. This first photo is on Fern Drive. Again, these are all double wides, a little bit larger lot, a little bit further setback further than the road, than some of the older mobile home parks. This is on Punky Lane, a little bit further out. You can see just a small segment of the under-drain soil filter off to the right there, and the next photo I think shows that a little bit more. Okay, so that's a good example of an under-drain soil filter. You know, it's typically about 2 feet deep, 2.5 feet deep, and so forth. So as water comes through that, into that structure, it kind of percolates down through a soil bed, and then there's some under-drain pipes that carry the water away. So it does both. It performs two functions. It slows the water down so that you don't have the same peak flows that you would otherwise, and it also treats the water, removing some pollutants. So that's a typical under-drain soil filter. This is actually probably one of the larger ones on the site. This is a view looking from the end of Punky Lane up towards Abbey. So there are a few single wides there. Overall, I guess I haven't done a head count on the park, but it's probably the first part of the park. Phase 1 was mostly single wides. The second part of the project is probably 2/3 double wides, I'm guessing. Whoop, I went too far. Again, there's another photo looking down Punky Lane at the double wides. There's, you know, one single wide there, but most everything else you see is double wide. Sorry. Okay, so this is the area down toward the entrance, Punky Lane. This is the existing mail house. So we'll have to do something for an expansion of that, trying to be aware of property line setback issues and so forth. So that's something that we'll have to address as we move forward. This is the area. In a few minutes, you'll see a fence that's been installed. This photo was from a few months ago. You will see another photo in a few minutes showing the fence that's been installed. So this is the mail house looking from the other direction. Okay, so here's where the fence has been installed. So that mail house is that right there behind that green, the tree and so forth. So this is essentially standing near West River Road, looking down Punky Lane. All right. So one of the concerns raised last meeting, and I'm sure will be brought up again at this meeting, was the buffer issue. So this is a good example. This is just taken today out from the driveway of Todd Hart, which should be the easterly one of those two homes there. So as you can see, you can look through there, and yeah, yes, you can see there's a mobile home there, and then even off to the right, there's another mobile home. As you look through here, so maybe it's a little bit hard to see from the photos, but there has been an attempt to block that off. There are, I believe, 4 pine trees along there, maybe average 5, 6 feet tall, something of that nature. So the previous owner had put these in, so they've attempted to give some shielding at that location. This next photo, this is up the road a little bit closer to being across from Colette Hart's home. Again, I think 4 or 5 trees there. Overall, I counted today, there are about 18 trees that have been, that are there. I'm guessing about 4 of them are dead. Most of what you've seen here are live trees. There are a couple of dead ones further up. So the previous owner has made some attempt, and the new owner intends to follow up to try to get that buffer established as it was intended. I think that's the last of my photos on this. Okay. I'm ready for questions.
So Randy, what percentage of the phase 1 has been completed?
Nothing is occupied. They've got, I would say, probably half to 2/3 of the infrastructure has been completed. They have set some homes. When I was down there maybe a week and a half ago, they had maybe 4 or 5 homes set on the pads, not completed, but just set on the pads, not assembled, not ready to live in by any means. I'm not sure of their exact schedule. I'm not sure. I believe Mr. Mark Sue is on the line here. I don't know if he can chime in to give an update on what their schedule is. The original intent was try to be able to start moving folks in May, but that's been delayed because of some construction delays and weather delays and things of that nature.
Yeah. Thanks, Randy. Yeah, this is Mark. We've been focused on getting all the infrastructure set up, and I think the 2/3 completion is about accurate. We do have about 10 homes there on site with slabs, and we've started installing some of them. But in terms of, we haven't focused on getting any residents in because we want to make sure all the utilities are fully on, stabilized, safe, and working first. So we anticipate getting that completed over the summer.
Does anybody else from the board have questions?
I took a drive by the other day, and it didn't look like you had any roads. Most of the mic's on. The roads through phase 1 of the development looked like they hadn't been built. I saw some fire hydrants sticking up out of the dirt, but it was just like piles of mulch and piles of earth.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it seems a little bit premature, since you have maybe 4 mobile homes on pads out of 60.
Right.
To be expanding into phase 2.
Well, it's a long process. There's no intent to build until next year, so it's a work in progress for sure. Just so you know, our timeline. The timeline is hopefully to have some sort of, I guess not a blessing, but at least some level of comfortability with the board tonight, saying, okay, we're okay with the concept. There are a lot of details to fill in. We've got to submit this to DEP. They take at least, by statute, they've got 6 months to review it. We had one, the DW reservoir, that took 14 months for them to review. So our goal is to try to submit this sometime this summer. We're trying to get by the end of July if we can. And so what the timeline is, we submit to DEP. It's a 6-month review process, but typically we know within a few months whether or not they have any major concerns, such as stormwater, for example. That's really what's going to drive most everything here. If they have some issues with our stormwater analysis, that may change some lots around. So what my timeline is, if we submit it within a month or so, maybe by the end of July is kind of our target if we can make that. And say by mid-fall, we should have some direction from them as to whether or not they're happy with it. And once we get that, then we'll start considering coming back for final, probably in winter time. So we know it's a work in progress. By that time, there'll be a lot more progress on phase 1. And then the intent is to start construction next summer on phase 2. But everything takes time, so we're moving forward at this point with phase 1.
Okay. Last time you were in, one of the issues, there were two issues that stood out in my mind. One was fire department access. The road was, I believe it was 3,000 feet long. I think it was extension from Fern
Is it the
Drive.
highway one?
It was an issue with the length, with the turnaround. It was the longest.
Right, yeah, we've had, right off before we
Yep.
came to the planning board last time, we had met with the assistant fire chief
Okay.
and gone through that, and met with the city engineer and code enforcement as well, to talk about the layout. And as a result of that discussion, we ended up with the layout that we currently have, with the interconnecting roads and so forth. So that they haven't given us anything in writing. They will eventually, but they've kind of given us a preliminary blessing on that layout based on the main thing is they don't want a dead end run that's too long, and by interconnecting these parks, that has minimized the length of any dead end run.
And the second issue that we had was the bridge or culvert over Nolan Drive over the ravine.
Right.
At one point, we were talking about having a secondary as a backup, so that a bridge or secondary path.
Yeah,
over
we've
that.
pretty much resolved. We're going to just treat that as a regular road. There's not much cost savings to doing anything less than that, and so we've pretty much resolved that it'll be probably something like a 8-foot culvert there, I believe, maybe a little larger, and double lane road, just like everything else. So if you've been out to Punky Lane, where you see that second gully
Yeah.
with a guardrail on each side, it'll be similar to that.
Yeah. It's a cement culvert? You're saying 6 feet diameter?
I'm not sure. Our first attempt will be probably corrugated metal because of the cost. If it gets too large, we probably will go into concrete.
Okay. And then it would be like crushed rock, or what's the bed on top of the culvert?
On top of the
Building, yeah.
culvert, well, there'll be directly over the culvert. Typically, you would have just reasonable common borrow for the first few feet over the culvert, and then probably going to be something like 5 feet of cover over the culvert. So that top 1.5 or 2 feet would be gravel, would be normal construction.
Do you have any idea how long the galvanized or corrugated material culvert would last?
They tell us 75 years. That may not be realistic, but that's what any of your trade outfits will tell you, that the galvanizing has improved over the years. In the past, there are some that have lasted 75 years. Some are failing within 40 years. So, but we're hoping that they're like a 75-year culvert.
And another issue that we ran into in the past was that we had I believe it was a force main. It was the sewer main, which roughly where Nolan Drives intersects with, I guess, trying to find it on here. Maybe it's not. I don't know if it's Evelyn, because Evelyn's new, but it intersects with Countryside, the original park near campground. I don't have the road.
Yeah, there is a force main through there currently that goes across phase 1.
Okay, and that's still
Yes,
that's
that's still intact.
still
Yes,
intact,
yeah,
okay.
that carries everything from Countryside.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. See, originally, just a little history on that. Countryside used to go to they had a system, a lagoon system and a spray irrigation system out back, actually on this land where phase 2 is going. And then when sewer was put in early 90s, actually as part of Don Gurney actually installed it as part of to service Punky Meadows. The sewer district required that Village Green connect onto that system. So the most feasible way for them to do that was to run a force main up across Countryside, up across wooded area. Actually, at the time it was field. To tie into Village Green. So that's where that force main discharges at Village Green.
Does that force main have sufficient capacity to cover this Countryside expansion?
It won't. No, there will be no sewage going into that.
Okay.
It will be all the sewage from this. The northern. Let me switch back over to that plan. The northerly 3 lots on this site will be going to Countryside Phase 1, which will be all gravity system. So a few lots, 3 or 4 lots, will go into Countryside Phase 1. All of the rest of the lots will be flowing down to Punky Meadows.
Okay.
So there is a pump station there, and we have checked those pumps, and those are adequate. And we'll double check them to make sure. If necessary, we may have to change those pumps out. But that's a very valid question, because the existing pump station, there's about 50 lots, round numbers, on Punky Meadows.
Okay.
So we're looking to add 65, 66 more homes to that system.
Was that pump station near where the generator, there was a Generac generator on the side of the, or on the south side of?
If
Punky
you're
Lane?
talking about on Punky Lane,
yes.
yes,
Yeah,
that's correct.
okay.
Yes, it's kind of that first gully of, 1,000 feet in or so, if that, not even that.
Okay.
Yep.
And those pipes are all sufficient capacity?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, correct. Yeah, really be the pumps that would be the concern, and that's a good question.
I had a question about the evergreen screening, I guess maybe in general, but you were pointing out some white pines that were serving as a screen.
Right.
Were those planted?
Yes, transplanted, yes.
So how do you decide on what greenery you're going to use?
Decide what?
Greenery?
Greenery,
What
greenery.
species you're going to plant?
It's not my decision. The previous owner had done this because he has a site where he can get hundreds of pine trees. So that's what he used because they're accessible. The new owner, I'm not sure what the new owner has plans for. One of the things that we've talked about today was trying to get somebody into the site that has some professional background in this to get a good understanding of what's going to grow best in this environment to
Right.
come up with a cost-effective solution. So whether it's white pine or somewhere, I don't know myself.
yeah, 'cause
That's not my area of expertise.
White pine is going to grow up and then
Yep.
it self-prunes and drops all of its lower branches and then it's like no screen at all. And then the needles make the soil acidic and then nothing else grows. So
Okay.
not a great choice for
Okay.
long-term planning.
Okay.
Then the other thing I had a question about was the proposed, the metering all being removed from the individual units.
Right.
That's the case elsewhere in Punky Meadows. Is that right?
Punky Meadows, I think it's different at each of the three parks.
Okay.
And I may be wrong. Punky Meadows currently has individual meters at each home.
Okay.
Countryside, which is just to the north of that, I'm pretty sure that they have a master meter so that they don't have meters in the individual homes.
Right.
I'm not sure about Village Green. I don't know on that one.
Do you,
But Countryside Phase 1, that will have a master meter. We've got a building with a master meter in that one, so that'll have a water meter building to serve the entire park.
and I don't know if there's any answer to this, but the landscaping then for each one of these, if it require, so there was a complaint at one point. I spoke with somebody and I can't remember which, but it was the one with the master meter, that they weren't able to have landscaping because of the need for irrigation and extra water for that particular lot. And so I was just, if that's happening here, then is there landscaping that's going to be installed, and then kind of the responsibility for keeping those irrigated is going to be, the responsibility is not going to be the homeowner? Like, how, do you have any idea how that?
I don't know. Are they talking about irrigating lawns?
No, I think like hedges, shrubbery. The person that had made the complaint was because they were forbidden from having gardens, they had like a bunch of pots with
Okay.
plants in them, and they were told they weren't allowed to have those because of the extra water demand.
I'm not familiar with the rules. I'm not sure if Mark can chime in on that. I assume that that's maybe with Countryside. Do you know which park that was? And
I don't. It was one with a master meter.
yeah, and Countryside is one with a master meter, so that may make sense.
It might narrow it down.
If they've got a
Yes.
master meter, then it would make sense that
So it's going to have to be the same thing in the new development then, too.
That's a policy that the mobile home park, maybe that's something that Mark can chime in on if he's available. That's the owner's prerogative, I guess,
Hey,
to set that
sorry, yeah,
standard.
I was having some connection issues. I got, I think, 75% of the conversation, but yes, only Punky Meadows is individually metered for water. All the Village Green, Countryside, and the expansion are all master metered. In terms of water usage, we don't have any prescribed rules other than generally to be cognizant of water usage. So if there's individual cases, we're happy to visit, but I hadn't really heard of this becoming a major topic to date. But I think we're generally just kind of remind people to be prudent with usage of natural resources and water.
Thank you.
Anybody else on the planning board? Okay, I guess I'm gonna be the broken record with this, Randy. I'd like to see phase one completed the way that we've approved it, buffers in place, everything done the way that it's been asked to be done before we move on and add 70 more houses. And I will agree with you, I've been up there. The newer phases of the parks do look a lot nicer, but you can see from West River Road how terrible Punky Lane is as you drive by. There are huge, huge potholes. It's not being maintained very well. I'm pretty sure at Punky Lane. I don't know. It's like a maze back there, so.
Which,
The one that had just got the fence next to it, I drove by it the other day and I could see the potholes from West River Road. So the road is not maintained well. The residents have said it before. I just drove out there this week, dodging potholes. So it's great that the newest part is being constructed nicely, but I want to see it fully constructed the way it's supposed to be before we move forward. It's hard to say, yeah, we're going to give you the next expansion without seeing the first one done.
right. I think the timing will be fine. I think they'll have a substantial part of it done in the next several months, so I don't think that'll be an issue.
Okay, I just want to see that approved by code, the buffers back in place, with trees that aren't going to lose all of their branches. Prior to moving forward. The grade out there, Randy, I don't know how you're gonna put all of those houses in there, but I'm not the engineer. But I went out there and it's like gullies, like full on gullies out there.
Yeah, we're staying back away from those, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
and
That's what they pay us for.
I understand. It's pretty deep, and some of these lots are right up against where the grade starts to drop off. Like, how are you ensuring that those pads are going to be set and that the road is going to be okay? Like, I want to make sure that all of that happens before we keep expanding.
Are you talking about Countryside Phase 1 or this phase here?
Countryside Phase 1, I want to make sure that all of it is done correctly,
Okay, right.
to spec, the way that it's drawn here,
Sure.
before we start making more roads. It's becoming like a maze back there.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that the fire department isn't more concerned. I don't know how you would ever find, if someone was like, I'm at 23 Nolan Drive, I don't know how you would even find it. There's no numbers on the houses. It's like,
Well, nothing exists out there right now.
well, I know. So
I guess-
even if you were like, I'm on Fern Drive or whatever it was, like, it's the roads all conjoin and it's a maze. It's like pretty hectic back there. So I want to make sure it gets done correctly.
Yep.
CTD is requesting informal pre-application review.
Did you want any
Oh, I
questions?
didn't do 6 first, sorry.
Do you want any questions from the public on this before
Oh.
I?
Do we have more questions from the public on this one? Sorry, I thought I did. Rock, paper, scissors for it.
You bring the map back up, Randy?
I can even give you a map if you want to. Okay.
So I'm Todd Hart. I own the land abutting Punky. And 25, 30 years ago, we asked for trees to be planted. The last meeting that we were here, you guys came up with a fence idea from the edge of, I say, the brook to the other brook, is my opinion. You guys said all the way, whatever. I thought that was a great idea. I said, because this new road the expansion, those lights are coming right into my house every night. Yeah, you went up today, that's great. It's green today. 3/4 of the year it's brown, it's nothing. And you can just see everything. And those lights just come in every time, all night. Now you just added 70 more trailers, that much more traffic, that much more noise, all coming at me. This has been going on for 25, 30 years. I thought the fence was a good idea. They put it up in the wrong place. What do you want me to say?
Yeah, I agree with you. We have not approved anything.
Okay,
Just so
I
that
just
we're-
wanted my opinion. I
Yeah,
thought
no.
the fence was a great idea, as long as it's, in, so
Yeah.
at least we have the trees to look at, so it's more natural. I thought it was a good idea. We asked for a fence
Yep.
30 years ago, and they said no. So you brought it up. I said, great idea. She had some concerns. She's had a big hole where it went over to countryside. There was a trail, and she asked for trees there, and they've planted them a couple of times over the years, and they just die. Anyway, it's very frustrating, and if this
Yep.
was by your houses, you would be up here being frustrated too. I just wanted to voice my opinion.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
May I ask a question before he sits down?
Yeah, sure. Hillary, sorry, I can't see ya. Hold on.
No, that's all right. No problem. So they had said that there had been a discussion today about the sort of mix up with the fence and the trees. Were you part of that discussion?
I wasn't there. I wasn't there.
Okay.
I heard about it, after, and then I've been seeing this fence being built because I drive by there every day. Oh, nice fence. Oh, it is. I didn't even put 2 and 2 why they were putting it there. It was supposed to go there. I
Right.
didn't know that. I found out today.
Okay. But you heard about the discussion.
Yes.
Okay. So do you feel, so I understand you weren't part of the discussion, but you heard about the discussion. Do you feel satisfied from what at least you heard from the discussion?
Well, I heard we're gonna put a piece of fence here where it's the lights, and then we're gonna put a piece of fence over here, and we're gonna do I heard a hybrid. Well, I just think that noise factor, light factor, you need to go the whole length. And what I'm suggesting is you can't go across a brook with a fence. So from the brook to the brook, that's through where our houses are. That would be my suggestion, you know what I mean? Other people can voice their opinion, that's just my suggestion. Brook to brook, a fence all the way. So hybrid, I don't understand hybrid. I'm gonna put 2 trees here, I'm gonna put a fence here, and then I'm gonna put another section of fence here. I don't agree with that. That's my opinion.
Sure. I think we were pretty clear on what we wanted. So if it wasn't done, I think it needs to be fixed. Thank you.
Yeah.
I thought so.
And I thought that we had
Yep.
talked about having the fence with trees
2.
together. No, I didn't. Not like a fence post and then a tree and then a fence post and then a tree. Doesn't make a lot of sense.
Exactly.
I thought we had talked about having the fence there to help block that light. You're
Right.
asking for 70 more houses to shine their lights in there. They've been dealing with this since way before I've been on the planning
That's right.
board.
93, 95.
And we talked about this in the last meeting and we said also the tree buffer that's supposed to be there anyways to help keep the natural aesthetics of the area. Part of the site plan review, Randy, that is like being a good neighbor, right? So it's not one of the checklists, but it is part of the review, right? And that's why we invite neighbors to come and speak. So, I mean, I can't speak for the whole planning board. I will not approve the final plans until a buffer is done and we have a really good sense of the construction. We know the road is in. We can see where the slabs are being, I'm not saying people have to be living in each of the units. I'm saying I want to see that it's built the way it's supposed to be built with the proper buffers in place, or I'm not moving forward with any more expansions. So, and that's going to be how I vote. I'm going to be really honest with you about it.
Could I just make a
Yes, you
comment?
may.
So I'm Colette, and I'm the one who met with Randy today. Randy came to my house this morning and asked if I wanted to come out and kind of look over the area. And then the gentleman who was the, what is his capacity? Property manager for the park joined us about a half an hour later, and they walked the area. So Trot, unfortunately, with his job, could not come and meet us because it was unexpected and he was traveling, so he couldn't come. So they kind of went over some thoughts and ideas about different things. One of the problems being the lay of the land and where the fence would go, and that being lower than where the mobile homes are, and the road is like in some areas at least a couple feet higher. So basically you're losing, several feet of fence. So they talked about possibly putting in longer posts in that area where they were thinking about putting. So a lot of ideas were passed around and suggested, which I appreciate him coming out and talking to me about it and everything. And he explained what happened with the fence and everything. So, Todd didn't have any chance to really have any input or discussion. So I kind of filled him in as best I could about what was discussed. So, I
We
just wanted
very
to,
much discussed where this green spot
Right.
is here.
Right.
They're being fenced.
Right,
In
right.
the last meeting.
right. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. So I mean, I want the best possible buffer I can get.
Yep.
As you know, we've been looking for it for a lot of many years, and at this point, nothing's going to go full. We're not gonna. This is going to come up. So, I guess where do we stand from here? How is this going to proceed from here as far as the buffer goes?
Could you email Anne an update or something of where the buffer is? I guess code enforcement would inspect it, so
I don't know. I
I'm
don't.
happy to continue to keep track of it, but less me going out there or waiting for Randy to come back
Yeah.
in. We don't get an update. Is this something that Dan that we could put on?
How are you willing to help us with this, Randy?
Well, let me. Part of, I don't have any issue with the fence, and I don't think the owner has any issue with the fence if it solves the problem. That's what my reluctance was as I was looking out there today. As she said, the ground kind of drops away, so you put a 6-foot fence up, but the ground at the trailers is, a few feet higher, so it would take a little bit more work. It may be a matter of hauling some fill behind the trailers or something of that nature to get the ground built up. If I knew for sure that the fence would work and do the job that it's expected to do, I don't have any problem, and I don't think the owner has any problem with that. So we're not trying to skirt the issue. In fact, I think it would be a proof that by virtue of the fact that they put in the fence, that they're trying to solve the issue. So by no means are they trying to shortcut or pull a fast one or anything of that nature. We're just trying to find the best solution.
I thought the fence next to the road looked great.
Well,
It
no, I
just isn't
I don't
right
even.
place.
Well, that has its issues too. In fact, Colette expressed, and maybe Todd can address this. I think Todd's concerned, if Colette was relaying his thoughts correctly, is if the fence is next to their property out by the road, then it becomes kind of a plowing nuisance, right? It's right next to the road. And that's not a great idea either. The property line, the woods line is right at the property line, right? So they would, in order to put a fence there to get it back away from the road, you'd have to clear a 10-foot strip, take out trees to make that happen. And then you still might have headlights shining over the top of the fence because the living room window's up 4 or 5 feet high. In a 6 to 8 foot fence is reasonable, but to try to get a 10-foot fence to stand up, they don't want to be looking at a 10-foot fence. I'm sure that's not a great thing. So We'll try to work with the Hearts. I think is probably the best bet to try to find a solution that they're content with. I don't agree with going brook to brook. That's a little bit extreme, especially since especially the westerly side, because it's just kind of no man's land out there. The easterly side maybe, but that's quite an extensive. The area where their homes are, what is it, 200 feet, maybe 250 or something like that, to go all the way to the brooks. That's tripling the length perhaps. So bottom line is, yes, we're going to continue to work on it, try to find the best solution. I think ultimately the best solution is to get some a combination perhaps. The best solution I think is foliage, vegetation, if we can get it to grow there. The problem is that's not going to be an immediate fix. That's part of the issue with that. Again, we'll work with the owner. If a fence is going to bring I guess the highest level of satisfaction, I think the owner is agreeable to doing that.
Where Butler just installed arborvitae, they're at least 6 feet tall along their property to meet a similar buffer issue. So I think the solution is definitely out there. I don't know if it's the white pines but
Right.
The wooden fence in conjunction with the arborvitae, which grow, there's definitely a solution here that.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I'd say. I
Like
think
those arborvitae aren't super tall today, but they'll grow right up, and it looks nice. And
Yep.
they had the landscape architects come in
right, and I think
find
that's
something that's supposed to be that will grow there, and
right, and that's part of the solution.
filled right in.
Part of it is we don't have a lot of land. It'd be one thing if we had a field there. Okay, then it's open. We can just do whatever we want for plantings and not have any concern about it and grow up great. We're trying to work within a wooded area to try to get something to grow and not disturb any more woods than is already there if we can. So it's not as easy as just going out and planting trees at the edge of a field and being done with it. So we'll continue to work to remedy the situation and work with the Hearts to come up with a solution that they're content with. I'm not sure if Mark is available to chime in on this.
Yeah, thanks, Randy. Yeah, I think I echo what Randy said. We're attempting to remedy the issue. That was the kind of fence installation project. I think there was a miscommunication on where the fence should be installed. So that we'll continue to go down that path and make sure it's installed in the right direction and right position. And to just echo the points mentioned earlier, especially we're going to be cognizant of some of the varying grade there to potentially raise the fence on a higher post and see we can get the appropriate amount of coverage. And if that works, that's great. If not, we'll continue to brainstorm and try to get answers for the right solution.
Thank you. Yes, come on up. Yeah, sure. Sorry.
This will be brief. Randy, can you drag the map down just a little bit? Sure. Jeff Pellerin from West River Road. I own a piece of property right near the top of the lot right here, Randy. You were trying to get a phase 2 approved, which is all in red, but all of a sudden we have another approval up here, I think.
Right, that's
And that was not enough square feet or something in the original plan to develop it. There was a problem with the lots being designed up here, and now all of a sudden I see this, and it was not there originally. So I don't know what's going on with that.
Yep. Can I address that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Originally, when we were designing this a couple of years ago, you brought it to our attention that there was an easement there along that right-hand strip, a 40-foot wide easement. Right. And at the time, we were pretty deep into the design on this thing, almost ready to submit to DEP. And instead of taking the time at that point to reconfigure, I think we had 5 lots in that area at that time. And then he was good to point out that there's an easement there, so that kind of shrunk that area. So we just said, okay, we don't have time and didn't want to take the time during phase 1 to get that all reconfigured and get all the stormwater figured out at that time. So we went ahead and just left that out of that phase 1. But now we've had time to look at it, accounted for that 40-foot easement, shrunk them down, so there are actually only 2 lots on that side of that gully. So that's essentially, it's not that it wasn't buildable, but it had less area than what we thought we could build on. So we had to reconfigure the lots to account for that.
So you're adding 2 lots up there?
Across the gully, where he's pointing out, there are 2 lots that we're adding. Yeah, right, those 2 lots there with the little circles, and then there's one just to the left of that. That you can't see the wetlands on here. Let me go to the next screen. I think.
Are these lots though, right here?
Yes, those are all lots. Actually, let me pull up another screen that's got it shows up a little bit higher detail. So if you look at the upper left-hand side of this detail, let me blow that right up a little bit more. So it's this area right here that you're thinking about. So see where you see lots 61, 62, those are the areas that are across. That blue hatched area is the wetland area. And so on the north side of that wetland area,
This was created by Village Green, by the way. Okay, when they built Village Green, they backed up the water on my land.
okay.
So, and I don't need any more drainage on my land, so I don't know where you're putting it.
Well,
This
it's,
is my problem.
right, no, it's going into the under-drain soil filter. So the 40-foot strip, this piece here is that 40-foot strip. Where that purple line that says, you can barely see, it says E/L, that means easement line. So this 40-foot strip is essentially, we're staying out of that and also providing a 25-foot buffer away from that.
So what's this, the turnaround? Or?
Yes, that's a turnaround, that's correct.
I don't know
Yep.
if you're coming out into.
No, we're stopping that. So you'll see that.
You have one here, what is dead end?
Yeah, that's just a dead end, yes, that's correct, yep. So we'll stop there and, that's all it is a turnaround.
The preliminary plan showed you
New
were
Mexico.
not gonna be doing anything over there because of this, and, you know, it's kinda like you're sneaking it in on this second phase. So, I didn't know about it, nobody told me about it.
Well,
I just noticed it.
there's no sneaking, it's on the plan, so there's
It's on
no,
the plan, so
there's,
I wanted to bring it up.
yep, no, there's no
It's on the
attempt.
plan. It's one little red spot on the plan, yeah.
Right, yep, and I apologize, I didn't point that out,
No, no,
but that's, yes.
Getting more water on my land, bud. I'm
That's-
already getting flooded by Village Green. When they built it,
Well,
they
that's-
piped up Village Green, and all the water is coming down in there, and that made my, well, what do they call it, wetland, right here. That wasn't wetland, it's wetland now. I
Yep.
don't know what I'm gonna do about it. I own a piece of land that's wetland that didn't used to be wetland.
Yep. Well-
And try to sell it, try to do something with it.
Yeah, all I can tell you is that this drainage, okay, I guess looking at this, I can see that lot 61 would be going your direction. We can make sure, I've got to check the stormwater. I will confirm and make sure that 61 is directed away from you so that it doesn't go onto you. I'm not sure, I haven't looked at my drainage plan to confirm that, but I'll confirm that 61 doesn't go your direction. The other lots should hit that wetland swale without going to you.
So those other lots then, Randy, where it's like 24, 25, 26 on Amelia Lane and Nolan, are those existing?
Well, those are part of phase 1.
That's what I thought. Which is exactly why I don't want to move forward with phase 2 until we have finished phase 1. Because I want to see, is there more drainage problems? I mean, there was a rodent problem this winter when all of those trees were cut down. Like, we need to see the implications before we just haphazardly continue to grant expansions. Yes. I emailed the resident that had sent an email and I didn't hear back. I haven't heard anything from Dan. I assume you haven't had any issues.
No.
Thank God.
Everything, I keep thinking, we're not right on top of it, but if they keep moving and moving, it just kind of makes you.
Well, you're disturbing so much land at once. But I mean, you can see the wetlands, and I know you say you're avoiding them, but they're not like just stuck in that one area, right, Randy? Like we pull up trees and roots, and that helps to increase there's less to absorb the water, right, and the runoff. So I think it's really important that we see what the implications of the first phase are before we look at the second. Yes.
Hi, I'm Jacob Varnway. I'm trying to figure out the fiscal impact of a large subdivision like this. First of all, can we go back to that red and black map for the roads? And let's zoom out.
Jacob, I don't want to cut you off, but the planning board doesn't talk about the fiscal impact as much, and it's already 8:40, and we're not even halfway through the agenda.
All
so
right.
I just need to. We can't keep going back and forth on plans and
All right,
all of that. Okay, it's
I'll
mostly
understand that.
just the development and how it hits with our ordinances. Okay. Any further questions? All right, Randy. LA Properties LLC is requesting informal pre-application for phase 2 of Rolling Meadows, or was that what we just did? Okay. I think this is Rolling Meadows.
Okay, Rolling Meadows, similar to the 8 Rod Road project. This was done at about the same time frame. It's on Webb Road. The sheet you should be looking at is labeled PB1 in the lower right. Very similar build concept. There are currently phase 1 consists of 6 lots along Webb Road. Phase 2 will consist of 8 more lots plus a common lot. This site will have private wells. Septic system or sanitary sewer, will be connected through they'll have a gravity sewer main on the road, and they'll have a pump station which will pump the water back up to the wastewater back up to the Webb Road. This project is also going to be subject to a DEP stormwater management permit. We're a little bit not as advanced on this one as on the 8 Rod Road, so it'll be probably in the fall before we get this one submitted to DEP. So this is kind of just the first round on this one. So again, just to show you what has been done and what's not been done. Nothing has been constructed out here at all, but lots 1 through 6 along Webb Road have already been approved. So now we're looking at lots 7 through 14. So as you can see, the road will come down through here. We do have a couple of small wetland crossings. This entire thing is meadow, except for the westerly side here. There's a stream that comes down through here. We'll have to have 75-foot setbacks from the stream for any development. We'll have under-drain soil filters. Most likely will be our treatment measure of choice here. We'll have to have a cistern similar to what we had up to 8 Rod Road. So very similar development plan is what we had on the 8 Rod Road project.
The first 6, those go off onto Webb Road?
Several of them do. Lot 2, for example, if you look at the pink outlines, that's actually the buildings. So lots 1 and 2 actually are intended to be constructed off the access road. So phase 1 consisted of the access road essentially to the back of those lots with a temporary turnaround right here. So lots 1 and 2 come off the road here, and then the other lots, these 2 lots will be the only lots that come, these 2 lots will have driveways directly connecting to Webb Road, and then lots 5 and 6 would have a common drive. We're just trying to minimize the number of access points to the Webb Road. So those would have a common drive, and it may even, we've got to look into this a little bit more, but I'm thinking if we do this correctly, we can serve actually Lot 10 as well and minimize crossing this wetland here. So the intent right now is that one road serves lots 5, 6, and 10.
So it's like two developments, kind of.
Well,
Yeah, two roads, two clusters of houses, independent
well,
clusters
okay,
of houses.
yeah, okay, 2 roads, okay, yeah, if that, yep. But that third one, we'll have to coordinate with the city. That one there would not be, the primary road will be built with the intent to turn that over to the city. This road here would remain private. It'd be more like a glorified driveway.
Okay. Any questions for Randy?
Randy, I realize you have the under drain soil filters. One of the things that concerns me when I look at this is that the velocity of the water, if there's a heavy rain or if there's a heavy snow melt, so these streams, all these wetlands, this is all draining down through Countryside and then through Countryside Expansion 2, down to those streams, down to Punky Lane. And the more grass that you take up, the more forests that are removed, it just speeds up the flow of water. I mean, I don't know how we can calculate this, but it seems like it's something that I would be concerned about. Do you think those under-drained soil filters can handle the amount of runoff we're talking about with this? How many acres this is? I don't know how many acres.
Yeah, the entire field is 17 acres.
17 acres,
Yes.
plus Countryside and.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's one of the key reasons that we have to go through DEP. That's what they look, the biggest thing that they look at. In fact, the DEP stormwater management permit, that's the whole goal of that, is to make sure that we're containing that water. So we'll have to do the calculations to size all of these the proper size to make sure that there is no increase in peak flow. That's what they look at, is the peak flow.
Does DEP look at all of these different projects combined as a combined impact, or are they just looking at them site plan by plan?
What we're required to prove on each separate project, they require us to show that there is no increase in the peak flow for various storm levels. So we study the 2-year storm, the 10-year storm, and the 25-year storm. So for each one of those storm levels, we have to show that we're not increasing the peak flow. So we did that for Countryside. We'll have to do the same thing for this project. We'll have to do the same thing for the 8 Rod Road project. So each of those projects will be required to show that and to prove that we're not increasing the peak flow from the site. So that's the advantage of the under-drain soil filters, is they basically accomplish 2 tasks. The tasks they accomplish is treating the stormwater and then also making sure that we don't increase the peak flow.
Okay. All right.
Right, but if you submit this project to DEP simultaneously as the Countryside Expansion 2, which sounds kind of like it's the plan, right? You want to kind of get them in there around the same time. Countryside first.
Well,
yes, in the next year you want to get both of them in there. Yes.
Right, yep,
Okay.
yep.
So, Countryside Expansion 2 hasn't been built yet. So how does DEP know what the peak flow would be without this development built?
We don't look, they don't look at it as a combined, they don't look at each project, they look at each project independently.
Right.
So they're looking at this chunk here, making sure that there's no increase in peak from this flow. They'll look at Countryside, make sure that there's no increase from that flow.
Which is what Tom just asked, right?
Well, that's what, I thought that's what I explained, but maybe I wasn't clear enough.
Yeah, but the problem being, how do we know that the peak flow, when you build both developments simultaneously, isn't going to cause more runoff? How will
Because-
we know? How do you
well-
prove that to DEP if you're submitting both of the projects at the same time?
Their standard is that for for each individual project, we don't increase the peak flow. So if we're
So-
not doing it for the individual projects, then there's not going to be a peak increase in the peak flow for the overall project.
But it sounds like that's not the case for the neighbors. So how do we tell the neighbors that your lawn's not going to get flooded even though I cut down all of the forest, pull up all the meadows, expand and use every square inch of this land for housing, cut down all of the trees, everything, which I have no problem with the housing. I think that these modulars look great. When I drove by, I thought they look a lot nicer. They're really nice. They're a great single family home. It's definitely a need. Missing middle housing, starter homes, like I have no problem with the housing. It's just we need to make sure that while trying to put as much housing as possible on these lots, which I understand there's a need. I understand the developer wants to make as much money as possible. Like I understand, but we also need to make sure that we're being mindful of how we're using the land and not destroying it for other people that have lived there for decades and the future and causing other problems down the road, right? So that's, I guess, where my questions come in. If we're doing all of these things at the same time and clearing out a bunch of land all at the same time, but submitting this much to DEP, how do they really know?
Yeah, I guess I don't have it, I can't tell you anything more than what I've already told you. The individual components, the peak flow doesn't increase, therefore the overall peak does not increase.
Yeah. I think people have a right to be concerned about
Right.
how the
Well,
runoff will impact
Right,
their
well,
land.
I can tell you that rules have changed over the years to help address this issue. Village Green was built, I don't know, early 1990-ish, I guess, late 80s and so forth. So they may have been under different standards, I'm not sure. I can't vouch for how previous homes were, developments were constructed. All I can tell you is that these new developments will meet DEP standards. That's the best I can tell you.
Okay, any other questions for Randy? Yeah, absolutely.
It'll be very brief. I promise you 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
You can even have 35.
Well, when they developed this, my lot is right here, and it's already been raised by Village Green. So I'm going to tell you, I had the most robust tree line you've ever seen in your life. Pine trees this big, and Todd knows it. And most robust tree line, 20 feet wide. You know where it is now? It's dead. It's in the ground. It's gone. I went to code enforcement. I asked him to do something about it. Nothing was ever done. They said because I didn't have a house on that property, they didn't have to provide any kind of screening. Yes, and yes. Yeah, it was because I didn't live on the property. That wasn't a requirement. And I didn't. But it's still a piece of land. They got destroyed. And try to sell it, try to do anything with it. It's wetland now. It wasn't created by me. And I paid probably up to $40,000 in taxes on it through the years. And now, it's gonna, I don't know what's gonna happen to it next. And who's gonna buy it, who's gonna want it, what's it gonna be used for? It's a dead-end street when it gets to Village Green. The drainage comes in, dead end.
It's not the problem. I don't have a problem with having houses here. It's just like, is this the amount of houses that is appropriate for this piece of land? Just because it says in the Res B that the lot size has to be 10,000 square feet? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Getting good, Anne. But doesn't mean that every single lot has to be 10,000. Like, it could be bigger if that's more appropriate, right? Like, it's just, is this the best use of this parcel to get as many houses as possible in it? Or is there a way to have less impact on existing homes that are already there? Like, those are the thoughts I have when I see this. I really like the development, Randy. I think these houses are great. I think there's a huge need for it. But I don't want to have problems down the road. I mean, we're talking in the winter, that's going to be salted and sanded, and like that runs off. And I know it goes into the fancy catch basin and stuff, but it eventually has to go to somewhere too, right? So that's just my thoughts. Any other comments? Members of the public? Okay. Yes. Dave, you have to go to the microphone or the people online can't hear, sorry.
David Leach, 8 Rod Road. Randy, my question would be, is you talk about DEP, and you get DEP approval, who's gonna police it? Durago? Are you gonna take full liability for this project that you developed?
As far as the stormwater devices, DEP does require that a professional engineer, typically it would be me, whoever designs it is typically required by DEP to inspect it, and then also to send in a report to DEP to make sure that it was constructed according to what's put on plans. So that is a requirement by DEP. They call it a third-party inspection. They require, for these under-drain soil filters, for example, they require that we inspect about 3 or 4 times throughout the construction to make sure that they are done properly. That's correct. Good question.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, CTD, we'll move on to number 7. CTD is requesting informal pre-application review for duplexes at 235 West River Road. It's a busy part of town. We did that one.
It's the little one.
The little one, thank you.
Okay. Randy Butler, Durago Engineering. I'm ready to get done for the night almost. I should get triple time after 8, shouldn't I? All right. This development, we've been working on for a few months. The location, it's essentially residential duplexes located at 235 West River Road, which is just south of Orchard Park Apartments, abutting Orchard Park Apartments, about across the road from Thomas College. In that neck of the woods is where it's located. There are actually 3 lots that this company owns, all adjacent lots. There's the one lot that is directly south of this. Actually, what I'll try to do, well, they own the, if you look at the lower right-hand corner of the plan, that's the existing house, an older farmhouse kind of building there. They own that there as well. And then this piece of property actually wraps back up around, kind of does an L-shaped piece up behind, and actually goes back and abuts up onto the airport there. So I'll just briefly pull up the zoning maps just so you can kind of get the context of the land area. Okay, so it's this zone RB. So this is the strip that we're looking to build on at this point. This little area here is where the farmhouse is, and then this larger kind of squarish area back here is behind Orchard Park, and this would be the airport, this kind of lighter blue area. So as you can see, all this whole area is zoned RB. Everything yellow is zoned RB. So just on the north, the top edge of the paper, that is Orchard Park. So you've got a preliminary site plan in front of you. On that, that's the 11 by 17 sheet that you have. There are 14 duplexes. That's kind of the original concept. So there'd be 28 units total, 2 bedrooms. Water and sewer would both be public system. We're trying to work out the sewer issue right now. We thought that we had public gravity sewer nearby, but we don't. It's a force main that comes up through there. So we're coordinating with the Waterville Sewage District to figure out the best way to provide sewer here to this site. If you were to look at your second sheet or flip that one, well, I guess I'm not sure which side you're on. One of those sides has like yellow showing where the right-of-way, the proposed right-of-way is. So what we're hoping to do, at least we want to build it this way, is to, and let me change my screen here so the audience can see. So the idea is to try to build it, if possible, and if the city is agreeable, to build that road to meet city standards with the potential to turn it over to the city in the future. And there is potential to go back to those backlands and develop that. The slopes are a little steeper back there, so it's going to be a bit of a challenge, perhaps to develop that as much, but that's kind of the intent. So that yellow band would represent the road. And so that's the reason that we've got two different configurations. You kind of see the lots to the south of the road at the bottom of the page having one configuration. So those would be, you'll see 3 separate parking lots connected to that road. And then on the north side, you see a little bit different configuration where you kind of have a larger parking lot with the duplexes kind of connected off that, where that loop road would remain a private road. So that's why you see different shapes there and the way the lots are laid out. This would be, we would have to do a stormwater management permit for this property as well. Tentatively, we have designed 3 under-drain soil filters for that. There's a small stream that crosses kind of right in the middle of the page. So we'll have to maintain 75-foot setbacks from that. There is a little bit of wetland on site. We have not yet delineated that, so we've got to do that before we move forward and lock these locations in. But we know that that's something that we've got to look into a little bit. And with that, I welcome any questions.
Any questions for Randy? Are these rented units, Randy?
Yes.
Is that the intent, or
that's correct.
Condo
Yep. No,
type
they'll
thing,
they'll be rented.
Okay.
Randy, do you have an estimate on the total number of duplexes that would be serviced by this proposed road? Not just what we're seeing here, but like
in the future?
In the future?
No, we haven't done that. And we don't even know if it would be duplexes necessarily. It could be, we haven't even fathomed what it could be out there. A lot of it depends on how this development goes and whether or not duplexes is a good model. If so, they may continue. It could be just individual house lots. There's really been nothing scoped out there.
Have you spoken to DOT about traffic ingress and egressing from this proposed road onto West River?
We have not. Typically, I believe, and maybe you can correct me, I think this is in the urban compact zone. It is. So the DOT would not have much concern, but the city engineer certainly would. And we have not had any outreach to him yet, other than showing he's seen the plans, I believe. We've sent the plans to him, but haven't had discussion with him yet.
I think you said you had city water. Is that
correct?
Correct. Okay.
Yes.
And then what's the situation with this force main? You'd have it's along West River Road? Is that,
yes,
okay.
It's along West River Road. There's a pump station actually down by Village Green.
Yeah.
So all the situation with that is that the interceptor, the newer interceptor that was put in from Oakland back, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago. I don't recall the exact date, but sometime back. So that interceptor comes down Webb Road and then down West River Road, dumps into this pump station, and then pumps from here up to the top of the hill there, kind of between Thomas College and the high school. Is kind of the crest of the hill, and that's where that discharges. And what we found out is that they really don't like the idea of us tying into their force main. Some systems are comfortable with that. They kind of feel like they're at capacity and don't really want to take any extra flow in that force main. So we're trying to work through that issue right now to see what's the best solution.
Your proposed solution might be to connect a gravity
a couple of options that we have. One option would be, and it'd be no matter what way we go, it's expensive. One option is to run a gravity line all the way back to that pump station at Village Green. You know, that's 1,300 feet or something of that nature. So that's an option. We think that it can flow that direction. We've done some preliminary numbers that we think it can go that way. The other option is to have a pump station on site and to actually run another force main along West River Road to dump in essentially at that same manhole up the hill, north of Thomas College. So that's another option.
And I'm just looking at your plan. The duplexes on the north side, they're very close to the property line. Is there going to be a vegetative buffer there? It looks very close.
It's about, I know that the setback requirement, I believe, was 30 feet. I know that we've got at least that much. I haven't scaled that off. But no, there's no intent to do a vegetated buffer. Typically, your buffers are, if you've got something, say, for example, a mobile home park, something that's a more impacting use than what you're currently, but you've kind of got I guess, almost equal impact, I guess, apartments versus duplexes.
So is this like two-story buildings, is that where?
No, one-story building.
One-story buildings,
Yeah.
okay. And that's existing, it's a hayfield now, is that?
Yeah, pretty much,
Okay.
yeah. What you see, that's correct. Yeah, you kind of see a little bit of a squiggly line, a greenish line through there. That's kind of where the edge of the woods are. If you look at the one that's got the full aerial, you can kind of make out the edge of the field. So it'll be like 3/4 or 80% of it will be within the field, a little bit will be in the wooded area.
Is the reason why you don't have a turnaround at the end of that street because the fire vehicles could go through the loop?
Yeah,
service
we'll
that
we'll
whole-
have to get that detail. That's a good point. Maybe we should extend that road a little bit further. Whatever we do, we'll need to satisfy the city engineer to make sure that they can turn around there. That's a good point to consider that.
What is that former building, like right before the underwater filter there? Do you have to tear that down?
No.
Or
No,
was
it's
it
been
there?
torn down. I'm actually not
Okay.
sure what it was. There is a slab there now, which we'll tear out.
Yeah.
So there's no building there currently. There's remnants of a slab that will be taken down. I'm not sure if it was barn or, I don't know for sure what was there, but that actually showed up on the city's old plans, showed up on their plan. Is that what it was? Was a barn of some sort? Yeah. Probably threw a few bales in that barn.
Any other questions for Randy? All right, I guess you're off the hook.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Randy. Number 8, John Jabber is requesting rezoning for 15 Washington Street from Commercial C to Commercial A. So if we could just, are you able to bring him in over there, Chad, or do you need one of us to do it? Okay, Hillary.
I'm on it.
Thank you. Yeah, we can do that. Okay. Mr. Jabber, we are ready for you when you're ready for us. Can you hear us? Yeah, you're muted. I don't know.
Okay,
There we go.
sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so tell us what your plans are for 15 Washington Street.
We are going to put residential condos on that facility. We could have tentative plans of putting 2 buildings in there. There would be 8 units per floor, and they would be 5 stories high. We don't have all the final details of the units, the build out, even the height, but that's a preliminary design that we're doing.
Do you
We
have
will take, go
any
ahead.
preliminary drawings or anything to show us?
Rachel is with you, is right in front of you. She might
Yeah,
she might
come
have
on
some
up,
of
Rachel.
the
Sorry.
yeah, she might have some of the drawings with her, but like I was saying, we're working with architects and design and the fire marshal and all that, and the city as well, of what we can do and how much we can put in. The other thing we're going to do to alleviate parking issues is we are going to put a drive-under garage and the building will have an elevator that will be able to take you to 4th, 5th floor, or whatever height that we end up having.
Okay. Love to see what you have for us.
My screen share is not working.
Oh. Is it because she's not a panelist yet, or are you in the?
Do I need to promote someone else?
Yeah, yeah. Do we have these plans? I don't remember seeing anything.
I don't think
Okay.
you do. We were just dealing with, first of all, just getting the zoning change. We do have preliminary plans, but we figured we would be bringing those into you next week to show you these preliminary plans.
Yeah, typically I know we don't usually, we see plans when we're talking about a major zoning change like this, so we know exactly what we're looking at and can judge what would be the most appropriate zone, or zoning change.
I'm not sure what Rachel has with her at the, I think Rachel's concern is that she has plans that are back from March. But I think this would just give you an idea of what we're doing, and as we are developing further, we will bring you all the sets of plans that we have. I mean, we're going to build, the way this is going to be built, there's going to be 8 units on a floor. There's going to be 3 bedrooms. There's going to be 4 3-bedrooms, and there will be 4 2-bedroom units on each floor.
Well, while she's working on that, does anybody have any questions while we're?
A single building here or multiple 5-story buildings? What are we? Sorry.
The land will have the ability to have two buildings. We'll start with one, and if it goes well, then we'll build the second.
Okay, so this is at 15 Washington Street. Is that right next to Kennebec Savings Bank?
No, it goes Kennebec Savings, then it goes to that AAA building, and
Yeah.
then it's the next lot after that.
Okay, got it.
I'm gonna pull up the map, Hillary, so that we can see what we're talking about.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's the 74, correct?
Yeah.
It's parcel
Yes, it is.
74?
Yes, yep.
John, can you give us a little bit of a rundown of the utilities that are served, that serve lot 74, would you have put adequate sewer or water? What does it look like?
We would have to bring the sewer line, which is in front of Kennebec Savings or on the corner of Kennebec Savings and Dexter Shoe. We would have to bring that line up 140 feet and put a manhole in and bring the sewer out to that manhole. The water is already on site or is right in front of the property, and the gas line is there as well. We also have a backup plan that we could pursue if we had to with the sewer line and bring it through the back of the property. Because if you look at the back of the property, that's where the city had built out this whole septic system. And we could possibly go that way too if we had to. But that could be a backup plan.
When you say the water line is in front of the property, would you have adequate water for fire suppression and for drinking water? Is that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Have you done any soil analysis? Have you done any soil analysis on that property? It looks like it's in a. There's some streams and some wet areas off towards Lincoln Woods that could wash through there. Is the soil capable of supporting buildings that large?
Well, the other thing we're going to do is we are going to put a full foundation into this facility. So we're going to take the existing soil that's there. It's like 5,000 yards of soil that's going to be removed from the property. And then we're going to go right down to the virgin soil. Because there was fill brought into there some years ago.
Yeah. Okay.
So what we'll end up doing is, as we'll do test pits, we'll dig out the area and then we'll do a soil analysis to determine the loads that will also help us determine sizing the footings and the foundations.
We've received a letter from, I believe, one of the abutters who is concerned about setbacks and appearance, and I guess you're asking for a commercial A rezone, which would have really minimal setbacks. Can you speak to visual appearance and screening and privacy?
Well, the thing about this piece of property, in the deed, on that side where the houses are, there's a 30-foot green area that has trees. It's just for green area. So I don't know why they did it on that piece, but there is already set up on that piece of property this 30 feet setback.
Is the 30-foot setback, is that abutting lot 64 or lot 62?
Yes, it is.
Both sides? Is that?
No, it's just the one. The only one we abut is on that one side. Let me see if I can. Where all those houses are, where 72, 68, 64.
Okay. So it's on all sides. It's got the 30-foot.
Right along that side right there.
Yep. And then there's also a 40-foot easement on the other side.
The easement serves which property?
So the easement, according to the last map, is over here.
Okay.
40-foot easement here, and then this side is the 30-foot vegetation.
What type of an easement is it? Is it a utility easement or an access easement?
No, it's a green. It's to put green to trees and things like that in.
Okay.
It's like a buffer.
Okay.
I've been well educated today on what to put there, fencing and green and things like that.
John, what are you looking at, like dimension-wise, on these buildings?
Preliminary 105 by 145.
And then all of underneath would be parking?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
So the first story's parking. And then
It's not the first story. It's going to be underground. It'll be the basement.
Underground, okay.
Yes.
I hate to return to the greenery again. The easement.
I know.
I'm confused about the maybe just the language. An easement, does that, I mean, that belongs to a property, correct? Like
Yes.
Okay, so does it belong to yours or the abutter?
mine. But
Okay.
it's, so I cannot go in there and cut down all those trees in that 30-foot buffer.
Okay, so is that like a covenant that comes with the property? Is that how, like, says who, kind of, right? Like, who says you can't cut these trees down? So
No, it was surprising to me as well, but it came with the property in the deed. In the deed, it states this 30-foot green buffer.
Interesting. Cool. All right, I am clear now. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes. Just right up to the mic, please.
Jim Douglas, lot 12 is my property. And very familiar, spent years looking at that lot. That's, your plan is pretty aggressive. 5 stories, underground parking. It's going to stand out in that area, but there is a hotel just around the corner that's about that tall. It's almost probably going to be equal in height. You don't think so?
I think it's only 3 or maybe 4 at the most.
The hotel is only 3 or 4? Yeah, I mean, that's...
It's 4. It's 4.
It's 4, okay. I mean, we're going to have a little skyscraper, so just in that size of the property, the number of people that you guys plan on putting into it, that's a lot. And I would have loved to have been able to see some plans. I'd like to be able to as plans are presented, I'd like to have them sent, by email possibly, and it sounds like other folks too, to be able to have opportunity to evaluate it as well. But just, it's interesting. It's been sitting empty for a long time. I think something should be done with it, but boy, that's pretty aggressive. I had to pick my job, it's like 5 stories. So that's my...
Well, like we said, we haven't finalized it, but
Yeah.
the problem you get into is this: to build a building, you start with a foundation,
Yeah.
whether it's 1 story or if it's 5 story or 10 stories.
Sure.
So the foundation cost is a foundation cost. To do this, because we're kind of thinking like elder people, and I've done a lot of buildings in Portland and
Yeah.
Boston, and we wanted to put this underground so people could drive under, get out of the weather, get out of their cars, get to an elevator, and go to their appropriate floor.
Yeah.
And the problem is the elevator is $250,000. So we need to share that cost with the number of units that we have on that facility.
Understood.
So we're trying to serve everybody. We're trying to serve the needs of Waterville, but we also need to make it so it's financially feasible.
Sure.
Because we do live in Waterville, and we're not living in Portland, and we can't afford to charge the rents. And to be honest with you, it costs us as much to build it here in Waterville as it does in Portland, Maine.
Okay. Does any other property in Waterville have underground parking?
Not that I
I'm
know
not
of.
sure.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds pretty cool. I mean, I'm intrigued by all this. That's why I wanted to ask these additional questions.
Thank you.
Well, what happened, really what happened with this was my sister, who lives down, Pam Trinwood, who's a Waterville person her whole life too, has moved down more towards the Boston area, and she moved into this apartment complex, and that's what it had. And that's what intrigued me, that you can drive in, get out of your car, get into an elevator, and go to your appropriate floor, and not lugging up groceries and things like that up 4 flights of stairs, or 3 or 2, whatever flights that we end up doing. So that's why we are trying to accommodate the needs of especially our older community.
Great. I have no other questions.
Thank you.
My name is Sandra Costrin. My first question, are these apartments or condominiums that will be sold?
There will be a mixture. I mean, to be honest with you, I was hoping to keep them all and to rent them all out, but with the financial costs and things like that and the banking portion, there will probably be a portion of them that will be sold.
And my other concern, you're talking about 80 units, correct?
I'm talking about 40 units in this building.
But the potential for 80.
Correct.
And with the average number of cars per unit generally is like where I live, it's 1.5. So you've got 120 cars. My concern is the impact on traffic at the intersection of Kennedy Memorial Drive and Washington Street, which already is quite heavy. I'm also concerned about, I live on Lincoln Street. I'm also concerned about increasing traffic on Lincoln Street, since that is frequently used by lots of people as a way to get to downtown and avoid Kennedy Memorial Drive because it is so busy on Kennedy Memorial Drive. Lincoln Street is also home of Delta Ambulance. They are very kind to us. They don't run their sirens unless on Lincoln Street until they get to the corner of Washington, unless there's traffic in front of them that they have to caution. So I'm concerned about increase in sirens and increase in traffic.
Any other questions? I have a lot of concerns about rezoning this without seeing any preliminary plans. Personally, that's where I stand with it. It would be really nice to see some plans, see how it's going to lay out on the land, how it might possibly affect neighbors and neighboring properties. It just feels a little premature to rezone it right now, but that's just where I stand. If anybody has a motion, they're welcome to make it.
I'd like to make a motion to table this so we can say a date certain.
Yeah.
When do you think you'd have plans available? Next month in July, August? When are we?
No. No, I mean, you tell me what you need, and I can get you preliminary. I already have them. Unfortunately, and I'm sorry for that. I'm out of state right now, which I'm normally never out of state. So, do you have a meeting next Tuesday?
No.
I thought it was possibly.
We are right now only meeting once a month. The council would be here next Tuesday.
Oh, that's why. I mean, to be honest with you, we are trying to just get. I mean, we're only going to be able to do so much, and then we're trying to determine, or we only want to spend X amount of dollars to determine if this is a project that the town of Waterville wants, the city of Waterville wants. And the need, I mean, I'm hearing from a lot of people that there is such a huge demand for housing in Waterville. You know, I'm a Waterville guy and my family are Waterville people. So we just wanted to try to help out there.
Okay. So I would make the motion to table this and to the next scheduled planning board meeting.
Do we have that date yet, Ann?
I think it's going to be July 25th. If we can confirm that we'll have a quorum for that meeting.
I can't hear Ann, but I think it's, were we looking at tentatively the 25th?
Yes.
Ann's checking her.
Thanks. I'll second the motion.
Okay, at this point, I only have 4 planning board members who've let me know they're available on the 25th. Let's see who we're missing. I don't know about Bruce. 4, 5, 6. Oh, Matt, are you still there? Are you available on the
Yep.
25th?
I can do the 25th, yep.
Okay, so we now have a quorum for the 25th, so you could postpone to the 25th?
Yeah.
Okay, July 25th.
Hey, can I ask you something? Can we get you, could we bring you or send to you the preliminary drawings prior to the meeting? So any comments or changes that you wanted to make prior to the meeting?
You absolutely can, yeah, and run those by Ann as well.
Okay. All right, I'll work with Ann and I will get drawings that you can see, that the board members could see, and they can give me comments, so the next Tuesday, or at the 25th, or whatever date that is, you have already seen everything. There won't be any surprises and there won't be any questions or concerns.
Well, I'm sorry, our discussion has to happen at the meeting. It's not that we can have a discussion with you through email, just to be clear.
That's fine. I mean, at least if there is something blatant, or if you have questions, you don't have to have discussion. You might have some questions that you might want answered prior to it, so I can answer those questions for you.
No, we are not allowed to do that. I'm so sorry. Our discussion has to happen publicly, so that members of the public can hear those questions or concerns, and then they can respond if they want to too. I know it seems kind of odd, but everything that we do has to be public. We can't have those discussions via email.
Okay. I will send everything to you, and on the 25th, you'll be prepared to ask questions then.
Absolutely.
You understand that's July 25th?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Will we get access to those plans prior as well?
And
I have your email address, so I will make a note. If you don't receive it right away, maybe you could contact me.
yeah, just let her know.
Hey, Rach, if we could pass this to Rachel of getting, Rachel, if you wanted to get his email address, you could send it directly to him. This young man right there, yep.
Is this allowed?
Yeah, oh yeah. It's just us. We have to be transparent for, state law, FOIA things. Okay. Thank you.
All right, that sounds, thank you very much.
Thanks for jumping on. I know it's hard when you're away, so thank you for making time.
No problem. Thank you very much. I'll talk to you soon.
Do we have a vote on postponing, or
yeah.
are you all okay with not voting on that?
We'll just vote to make sure. So Hillary, are you okay?
Yes.
I'm sorry, the motion and the second?
I seconded it.
Hillary's a second.
Tom and Hillary. Thank you very much.
And then Matt,
Yes.
I'm a yes, and April.
Yes.
And then the revisions to LD 2003, Ann asked us to also postpone to July 25th. So I'm going to make that motion.
Seconded.
Okay, Tom,
Yes.
I'm a yes. April,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
and Hillary.
Yes.
And now I will hand the gavel to April.
Okay, number 10, our last item for the evening, KRP LLC is requesting informal pre-application review for the creation of apartments at 155 and 165 Main Street. This review is in accordance with Article 4 of the subdivision ordinance. Okay, Planning Board, do we have any questions, comments? Or do we, I'm sorry, shall we ask?
I think Justin's
Justice.
presenting.
Justin.
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks for having me here, and I thought I'd just share some of the preliminary plans that we had come up with for the residential units for those buildings. So I'm just gonna try to share those right now. Let's see. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to pull it up here. One moment. Are you able to see the PDF I have on the screen here now, or?
I can see it.
We
Okay,
can see
great.
it.
Perfect. These are just, we have some exterior renderings of the front of the buildings that we've done. And we're still working through a couple different variations on that, but that's kind of the general sense is restoring those to the historic appearance. And one building 165, which is the Edith on the left of the picture here, it has 3 floors. And on the right, you have the Eden block, which is 2 floors there. And we're proposing to put residential units on the upper 2 floors of the Edith building and in the back on the 1st floor, and residential units on the 2nd floor of the Eden block, which is 155 Main Street. And here's the another rendering of potentially the exterior of the Eden block here. And here is a rendering of the rear of the building. We can see all the windows, which would be on the upper floors, would be the residential units there. In this photo here, in this picture, you'll see this is the proposal for the 2nd and 3rd floor. They're identical. It's on 165 Main Street, and there would be 6 units per floor on those. And those are studio style units, as you can see. That's the kind of the best use, just given the layout of the building. That's the way it worked out. But they're all very good size units. And those would be, like I said, identical on the upper floors. The 2nd and 3rd floors, they'd have the same number of units and then the same layout on those upper 2 floors. And on the this is the 1st floor of 165 Main Street. In the front of it's all retail. We still have that. That's the original use. In the rear of that, we added some residential units, because in the back of the building, it is above grade in the back there. So the back of the building is the 2nd story. So these residential units on the back of 165 would be above the 1 story on the 2nd story in the back there. And on the on 155 Main Street, which is the Eden block, we have on the 2nd floor we have designed for 6 units on that building. So the total between the 2 buildings is about 21 units between the buildings, with 18 in 165 and 6 units in 155 Main Street. And we think that's the highest and best use, and addresses a lot of the housing need, and would help to reinvigorate the buildings and hopefully contribute to the downtown revitalization. That's what we've been working on.
Okay, thank you.
So if you have any questions, please let me know, and happy to answer them.
The Eaton building is 2 stories. That's the 2-story building, correct?
Yes, 155 Main Street, the Eden building, correct.
So the buildings are not that different in height. So does that mean that the apartments in Eaton are going to have much higher ceilings?
They probably would. Yeah, the ceilings in those are significantly higher. That's just the way they were designed. So it depends on what the final design would be for energy code and all of that. But yes, they probably would have higher ceilings in 155 Main Street, correct.
And what is the timeline for these 2, for the apartments being available, I guess?
We'd like to begin construction, and we're still working through a lot of the capital stack and putting the financing together for the project. So we're hoping to do that, to kind of have that piece together in the early fall, and then hopefully can maybe start construction at the end of this year or in early 2024, and have them all ready in at the end of 2024 would be the goal.
And then are these to be rented? Are you going to maintain ownership of the building, or are these going to be sold?
Yeah, they'd all be rented. They'd all be apartments, and they would all be affordable housing in accordance with Maine state housing and HUD as well. So there would be probably some income restriction on that.
Right. Okay, thank you. I think I saw Matt's hand up. Is that right?
That pretty much answered my questions, actually.
And now I see Hillary has her hand up.
Thanks. First, they look beautiful. Super excited about them. It looked like there was maybe a laundry facility on site. Is that right?
Yes, there would be. I think let me pull up that one. Yeah, there was a plan for laundry, and it would be part of the first floor of 165, and we'd like to integrate that into the units for all the residents to use. Yes.
Are there any concerns about water or sewer?
No, we've already met with the water and sewer district and have preliminary approval from them. And when the main street was kind of redone, when they did the whole build grant, we had all new water lines for fire suppression and drinking water put in. So it's more than adequate what's there now. And we did some sewer work in the back as well previously. So that's all kind of ready to go for those for this use.
Great. Can you speak to their studio apartment? So would you limit it to two people?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess the occupancy limit. Typically, a studio would be. I would assume that would be for two people.
Right.
And the reason why we designed it that way, it's just because of the layout of the buildings. They're long and they have buildings on either side of them. So that's kind of the way. And we have to meet with the life safety code too. So that's why they were studio style units.
Okay, any other comments or questions from the board?
I'm sorry. Did you not hear my question about
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you. Cut out there a little bit. Can you say it again?
Oh, that's all right. My dog's next to me snoring.
So your question was parking. Yeah, we do own the parking lot in the back of the building, and if we have at least one parking, I think the total will be about. We're working on the civil engineering plan for that, but there's more than enough parking for these units. On our property, we own the lot that goes from Temple Street to Appleton Street, and there'll be more than adequate parking here, and we're working on the formal parking plan as well.
Great. Okay. That's great. Thanks so much.
Sure.
Okay. Any other comments, questions from the board before we hand it over to Rebecca?
Councilor Green.
Councilor Green, sorry.
Rebecca Green, Ward 4, City Council Chair. So it looks great and exciting to have some more housing downtown. I'm wondering if there's any elevator, or there will be elevators to. Okay, great. To both floors. And my other question was, will the buildings be connected? Will the hallways go through, or are they discrete?
I'd like to have. I mean, that was kind of the original idea, was to have them connected. I think for life safety and fire code, it's probably going to be partitioned between the two. And the elevations they don't line up exactly. So I think it would be a challenge to have them connected on the upper floors of it. You could potentially connect them on the retail floors because they're on the same level, but the elevator could potentially service both buildings. But you can kind of see that in this photo here. It's next to the stairs here. So that's kind of the idea, to have the elevator service. But right now there's no definitive plans to connect the upper floors of the building. It's just a challenge for based on the elevations.
Right, and I suppose there'd be no real reason to do that, except that if the elevator can service both buildings, obviously that's a win.
Correct.
I was really just curious, but anyway, great. Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you.
I think I saw Hillary with her hand up.
Yeah, I guess that was my question, because I thought I saw the elevator. But so the idea would be, I'm kind of repeating it, if the buildings are separated, how could the elevator service both? I'm not sure I understand that.
Yeah, sure. No, the elevator it would have two doors on it basically. So one of them would potentially open to 155 Main Street, and the other side of it would open onto the floors of 165. And the elevation is different enough between the two that it could have a separate stop for the other building.
Perfect. Great. Thanks so much.
Okay, any other further questions or comments? All right. So I guess that means that we can look forward to hearing more in the fall. Is that right?
We should have preliminary and final plan review in July, hopefully at our next meeting.
In July.
Yeah.
July. Got it. Okay. Sounds great. I think, does that conclude our discussion of item 10 then? All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. So we shall. Thank you, everybody.
Yay.